Started.
Okay, well, welcome to the council meeting on the date of 16th September, Tuesday. Welcome to all who's attending, like PT journalists, and my fellow councillors, all intend except Councillor Bates is an apology, but we'll go through that in a second. I'll just do the live streaming statements. Everett River Council wishes to advise members of the public that council meetings will be recorded and will be available after each meeting on council's website. All care will be taken to maintain the privacy of those in attendance. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event your image is broadcast. This includes any filming by television cameras if attendance is approved by the Chief Executive Officer or the Mayor. Item 4 is acknowledgement of country. The Everett River Council acknowledges and embraces the traditional owners of the lands within the Everett River Council area, the Wamba peoples, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. The Everett River Council also recognises the diversity of different cultures within our community and their contributions. Item 5 is apologies and application for leave by councillors. We have one apology as Councillor Bates. Everybody else is in attendance, so I seek a motion to have that approved. Councillor Fawns, Councillor Booth, seconder. No discussion. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, item 6 is the confirmation of minutes. 6.1 draft minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 19th of August 2025. Recommendation states the council receive and note the draft minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Tuesday 19th of August 2025. Someone move those? Councillor Crosley, Councillor Fawns. Any discussion on those minutes? Debate? All comfortable? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 7 is disclosure of interest. Have you got any disclosure of interest to report it? Councillor Crosley?
Just non-pecuniary, less than significant for the item 11.7 draft policy temporary trade of water.
Okay. I'll have the same for you, Councillor Fawns. Okay. So intention is to stay in the room for the debate?
Yes.
Okay, right. So they're noted for the public.
No.
Yeah. Okay, there's no mayoral minutes as item 8. Item 9, there's no urgent items of business. We'll go straight into reports of committees. 10.1 is draft minutes of the Blighty Advancement Committee. Recommendation states the council receives the draft minutes of the Blighty Advancement Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 9th of September 2025 and notes the committee's resolutions. Can we move those? Councillor Crosley, seconder. Sampson. Any discussion? Councillor Crosley.
A couple of points of clarification. The netball courts and the damage that was done to the netball courts, is that something that could be claimed under insurance, given it's potentially going to cost a little bit to resurface, acknowledging that that quote hasn't been completed yet?
Through Mr Mayor and thanks Deputy Mayor Crosley. Yes, so generally damage to council assets, we would notify council's insurers that there may be an upcoming claim and receive then further advice from them of whether it can be claimed or not.
Right. That's good.
Any other discussion on those? 10.1? All right, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, 10.2 is a draft minutes of the Laura Park Users Group. The recommendation states that council receives the draft minutes of the Memorial Park User Group meeting held on Wednesday, 4th 2025, and notes the committee's recommendations. We move for that. Councillor Moore, seconder. Councillor George. Debate, any discussion? Councillor Burge.
Through you, Mayor Hall. There's a reference in here to Memorial Park being given a bill for the show weekend, and I found it rather strange that it was even mentioned. I would have assumed we bill them. Do we for extra? Could I just have some clarification?
Yeah, I'll pass one to Julie, who's done all the work on this.
Through you, Mayor Hall, and thank you, Councillor Burge, for the question. Yeah, I've clarified that invoice. So the Show Society send a letter to council annually requesting in-kind support, as many events do in the community. They had a change in committee personnel this year, and that letter didn't get submitted to council. So originally the works weren't identified as in-kind. We've since identified those as in-kind, received the letter and an apology from the Show Society, and we've retrospectively allocated them as in-kind support and cancelled the invoice.
Right. Thank you.
It's just a bit of procedural kind of
Yeah.
information.
Thanks.
Councillor Neal.
Oh, no real question, just probably, I attended that meeting, and I congratulate Julia for chairing that meeting, and it was a good discussion, and I believe we're going to move to more strategic, which I hope all these user groups meetings become. But one discussion point that probably I'd like to highlight is the amount of homelessness that is impacting down at the Memorial Park. And yes, I know there's a lot of work done by council, and it's not council's problem as such trying to move them on, but I think as a community we probably need to take heed that homelessness is occurring in Deniliquin, and even in the growth report we're higher than average. And I think Julia's gone off, and one of the discussions during the meeting was that we don't have the services to help these people. Apparently we may have the services, but they actually have to go to the service as opposed to the service going to them. And I suppose Vinnie's seems to be a service that's there, that if we see people in this situation, encourage them to actually go and seek help, because I think we just don't. We need to help them where we can. So it opened my eyes that meeting, that it isn't. They might be hiding down in Memorial Park, but we need to be aware that there is a homelessness problem in our town, unfortunately.
Yeah, totally agree. Last week with the amount of people like these beach areas down there. I haven't seen homelessness like we have in the present stage. I think it's unfortunately it's probably there's a lot higher decision makers than us that are probably creating this. So again, it's I don't know what council can do at a local level, but I'm sure that we might have a few chats about that and just see what other opportunities are, and seek some advice off the different departments of what actual services are available, and look into that. Thank you. There is a recommendation there. Any further discussion on that? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, reports to council is 11.1. Is Business New South Wales Regional Leadership Membership. There is a recommendation that council become a bronze members of Business New South Wales Leaders Program for a 12-month period. Recommendation there, Councillor Burge, seconder. Councillor Newell, discussion or debate on that?
Probably my only discussion point would be that if after the 12-month period that we see that there's actually benefit of going up to the silver or gold, that we actually consider it, because in the scheme of things it's a small price to pay. I think it was $3,000, $4,500 for the silver, and you actually got able to get a staff member and mentor them through leadership type things is one of the benefits I saw from going to that next level. So I met the head of that last week, and I found that she was very knowledgeable and what they're doing in Wagga. I think if there's opportunities for us to help us with our advocacy in that area, I think it would be fantastic.
Councillor Birch.
Through you, Mayor Hall. I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Newland just said. If you have no skin in the game, you don't get anywhere, and so it's a really vital step to join and to be seen to be participating, plus the information, the knowledge that we would glean from this, I think is very important.
Just for council's background, I've had numerous discussions with Serena from Business New South Wales about this program, and I was invited to the last one to basically join, but we've been, as I said, we haven't received and stuff. We have to bring this back to council before we can kind of make that decision. That's when the Premier was there. It's Minns, Premier Minns. But the Ute Muster or Plum Plains have joined as a local entity, and I believe Interreach will be looking to potentially do that as well. But they have to take that to their board and discuss that. But Russell did attend the last one, so I spoke to Russell after it and got his feedback because I thought it was he said look, it was a very good opportunity. There were quite a few people in the room, and you don't get a lot of time with that thing, but it's being acknowledged and being part of that type of group of influential people is, I think he found it very worthwhile, and probably agreed that it would be good for council to have a seat at the table. So hence I've asked Chad to put the report up and give council determination. Yeah, that's just a way of background. I think it's worthwhile, particularly at that state level. They probably have some federal opportunities there as well in terms of politicians and that type. But it's just the business, like there's Origin Energy are key partners. We'll be dealing with those in the res. So I think they're the opportunities that we need to kind of get in front of those type of people and be seen and get those kind of alliances firsthand.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to say that I can't see the justification for us joining this. I think there's plenty of opportunities for us to form those relationships outside of a $3,000 cost to the ratepayers. I think that money could be a lot better spent inside our community, whether it's community grants or elsewhere. And our region is already going to be represented by those groups that you've mentioned to have joined. So I don't see the justification for spending $3,000 on another advocacy program.
No, that's fair enough. Any further discussion on this? Councillor Ford?
Through you, Mayor Hall, and I kind of see where Councillor Sheffield was going with that, and I'm a little bit on the fence there. So what I would like to see is, if this does proceed, that we actually do have a look at what we are actually getting out of the membership and the benefits that are involved before we decide to renew the following.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Councillor.
Can I just add to that whoever attends these sessions actually brings back information to the council group?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's critical in terms of getting information first hand back to the group council. Okay, any further debate on council?
Just I guess a comment that 3,000, as per the report, that $3,000 is not an additional 3,000 to come out of the general fund, for example, but it's going to be coming out of a current CEO consultancy budget.
Yes, so there's a $3,000 annual budget there that's discretionary, should I say? Yeah, so we'll be utilising that.
That's good.
Okay, no further discussion. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, 11.2 is New South Wales, LG New South Wales Annual Conference 2025 motions. The recommendation states that Council consider the proposed topics outlined in this report and determine which motions Everett River Council will submit, and 2, authorise the CEO to finalise and submit motions endorsed by Council prior to the LG New South Wales closing date of Tuesday 30th September 2025. Move and second for those. Councillor Milne, second to Councillor Burge. Discussion on these.
Probably just clarification, so when the recommendation is to authorise and submit endorsed by council, does that mean that it has to be endorsed today? Or,
My intention was to endorse today so that we could take them up. I was just having a quick look because I believe we received an email from the Government of New South Wales to see that the deadline has been extended too, so we probably have an opportunity if we wanted to defer to the next council meeting and workshop longer at the next workshop.
The only other option is that we basically through endorse you to take feedback, and if we can come up with a list of motions in that time frame.
Like
we can
the
complete
paper
it.
email.
Yeah, by
Exactly.
email, but I think it's worthwhile discussing this in a little bit further in depth, because as I said, I don't think that there's a couple there that I think will be brought up regardless of us putting them forward. I think we should be more relevant in terms of what is concerning us in our area, particularly maybe the res and these type of things. So I think that they're opportunities that we should be putting forward and motions that are going to be debated on a holistic basis from the sector. Councillor.
Yeah, look, I agree, and I hope that we can work on these a little bit further. I don't really feel too comfortable with our number one motion to be submitted, which is our highest priority to be our own pay scales. I think we've got a lot bigger issues in our region than what a councillor gets paid and what a mayor gets paid. So I just don't think it's a very good look having how we prioritise what our issues are.
Councillor Fawns?
Yeah, just some clarification then around from what I'm hearing, is we do have a recommendation on the table.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing around the table is that we're going to
Well, we might make an amendment if someone would like to make an amendment. Councillor Milne?
I'll make an amendment that we revisit the motions and have a workshop to fine tune the motions that we wish to submit, and then authorise the CEO to finalise these motions and submit them by potentially the 30th of September. So perhaps in the next workshop in 2 weeks' time. We're pretty close to the 30th of September.
No, so it was originally moved by Lincoln and Shirley.
Oh, Shirley, you happy to go on and support that amendment?
Yes, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if we can go back to the next council meeting because that might be too late.
I just think give the authorisation that endorsed today,
Yes.
give the authorisation to the CEO to make the final determination.
which is in point 2, so that's.
Yes, I think because it's got the date in there. It doesn't make sense.
Okay. Is
So
there,
then, point 1, consider and propose topics outlined in this report. We're saying that it may actually be topics outside of what's in the report, and I think we've also identified 2 topics that are in the report that we don't.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure how if we're referencing this report.
maybe just take outline in this report out.
Yeah, the intention of the ones that I put in the report were just example ones, so they weren't my recommendations on which ones we do actually pick. It was just the ones that we discussed in the meeting that that was the priority of the list that we discussed.
Would point 3 become point 2? And then point 2 become point 3? Just technicality.
Yeah,
Four
point
points.
3 is part of
Yeah.
point 1. Either
and then just get rid of authorise the CEO as CEO to finalise and submit motions.
Mover and second, happy with that? Okay. Amendments now there, any further discussion, vote on that motion? Okay, all right, put that recommendation, all those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. 11.3 is the 2024-25 draft financial statements. The recommendation states the council, one, recommend that the draft financial statements as tabled for the financial year ending 30th of June 2025 be referred to audit in accordance with section 413/1 of the Local Government Act 1993. 2, approve the signing of the statement by council as a management in accordance with the section 4132C of the Local Government Act 1993 and clause 215 of the Local Government General Regulation of 2021 in relation to the financial statements of 24-25. And point 3, the recommendation states that note that the audited financial statements will also be provided to ARIC in September. Someone move that?
I'd like to make an adjustment or
Amendment?
amendment.
Yeah.
I just would like the financial statements to actually go to ARIC before they go to audit, to give them the opportunity to use their expertise to identify anything we should be may need to reconsider.
So that will be provided to ARIC.
And provide their feedback provided before we send it to audit.
Yeah, so maybe rather than note that they're going to ARIC, for the statements to be endorsed by ARIC before being passed on to the auditors. Sorry, Jacinta, that's still as loose as what it was.
But endorsed by ARIC before being sent to audit.
Submitted.
C.
So amended item 3 there, statement to be endorsed by ARIC before being passed on to the audited financial statements will also be required.
No, so I think part before sent to audit, so, because that's indicated that ARIC were only going to get the audited version, but they've got a meeting this week seeing the unaudited version.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. And just remove that, sorry, just after audited financial statements, just remove everything after that too.
Statements to be endorsed by ARIC before being passed on to the auditor.
Remove financial statements, words.
Beautiful.
Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Milne. Is there a second for that amended? Second by Councillor Cosley. Some discussion on those. Councillor Burge.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. My question is more just a clarification regarding, is that normal procedure with other councils that they do go to ARIC first? Is that just their standard thing? Would anyone know?
Yeah, so the intention will, because of the timing of it, is that this year we have had 2 separate ARIC meetings, and so unfortunately it's going to be happening Thursday after the council meeting, and next year we'll be able to have ARIC first and then to the council meeting.
So it would be, so it would be good to clarify that into the future, like you'll set up procedures so that we don't try to pass this before we have ARIC's view.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good, thank you, great.
Councillor Shane.
So just out of curiosity, why did we not defer this and then just have an extraordinary meeting after ARIC had considered it?
We could have had an extraordinary meeting, yes.
I think we've got to be mindful too, ARIC are only an advisory group. They don't have the forces to, they don't endorse, we still have to put it through the audit process. They're just enough, they're an insurance for council that things are happening in a transparent way, and they do ask relevant questions, but they have no powers over it to I'm probably not comfortable with the word endorse. I think it could be review, because it's maybe seeking, if they don't endorse, well, where's that stand? So I just think a review
My thoughts on it there, sorry, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, is
I
that,
don't think you can actually change it now.
yeah, well, it's the current motion, unless we get another amendment through. I lost my train of thought on that one, is that if there is anything urgent or outstanding coming out of the ARIC meeting, then maybe we will bring it back to possibly hold an extraordinary council meeting for a decision to pass it on without ARIC endorsement, if that's the case. And if councils are aware of ARIC's concerns with the statements.
Any further debates on the financial statements recommendations with the amended motions? We're clear where basically statement 3 basically states statements to be endorsed by ARIC before being passed on to auditors. Clear with that? Okay, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, 11.4 is delegations of authority, part 1. Recommendation states that council adopts the updated delegations of authority part 1, council to mayor, committees, other bodies and CEO, and 2, note the delegations of authority part 2, general manager staff, will be reviewed and approved by the chief executive officer. Move around a seconder for that recommendation. Councillor Schofield, seconder. Councillor Jewett. Any debate, discussion on that? Councillor Muir.
I'll probably just add one comment that if we can to make sure that one section there actually gets changed so that there is content there that's not relevant to the document gets removed. I'm just trying to find the number. That's point 5, the role of the mayor, but then it had references section 226, which I don't believe is relevant because it's not mentioned in that particular bullet point.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Mullen, for the comment. Apologies to Council, there is a typographical error in that, as Councillor Mullen quite rightly points out. The sentence where Councillor Mullen refers to point 5, it's actually in the council papers at page 200. There's a sentence there that should be removed. It refers to an old regulation since been repealed. It was intended to be a comment for editing purposes only. The markup in the actual secondary appendix is clear there. We'll make sure that reference is removed in the final copy.
Thank you for that. Does that clarify your concern there? Thanks, Councillor Miller. Any further discussion on that item? Councillor Fawns?
Just trying to find the page. Back in the, skipped past it to then go on markup. Point 3 on page 5, which is page 178. Beside it meetings, so it's talking about the delegation to the mayor.
Yeah.
The very last sentence, to ensure the code of meetings is adhered to be in line with question mark.
Right.
Sorry.
I think what. No.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Fords, for the comment. There was a basically what's happened is the markup copy, which is the second appendix to this paper, clearly outlines the changes. There seems to have been some formatting issues in the clean version. There's a supplementary version provided to councillors that is a clean copy of the markup, but the reference to what the actual reference to the changes that are proposed are in the marked up version appended to the council papers.
Because there were,
clarifications?
Oh,
Okay. Really, there's a few formatting issues that we'll have to address.
I'll make comment just so that if anyone's interested in what's in the actual business papers has been modified so that the actual report, there was a number of errors in the business paper, so there has been another document provided that clearly states what the changes are, because the markup and what was proposed weren't in line with each other. So.
Yeah.
So the intention was so rather than put up the new one and then have councillors compare the two documents with markup on to show what every change was, so you can just basically approve the changes from what it was, nice and easy, and then there's a completed document with all the changes that should be adopted.
Yeah, well, what's in the business paper is not.
So
that's
that's
what
what's
formatted
the
there.
markup. Yeah. So everybody is clear that the markup is what we're kind of talking about now with the that additional information.
No one's responded to me. Got it.
Yes,
Got it? Okay.
yes. Yes.
Okay, all right, clear. Any further discussion or debate on that item? Okay, I'll put that recommendation, all those in favour? Yes, carried, thank you. 11.5, we're up to that, I think. Is 11.5 is the code of conduct. The recommendation states that council adopt the updated code of conduct. Move in a second for that. Councillor Cosley, Councillor Sheffield seconder. Some debate or discussion on that. Councillor Newland.
This is probably just a comment again, just for everyone's reference. So when you're reading the business papers, there's really only been one change, and it's at 3.7, but unfortunately there's no numbering system in the document, so you can't find 3.7. That again is just the documents come over to the business papers and all the numbering has been lost.
Do you want to just outline what 3.7 is?
Oh, well, 3.7, virtually the change was additional words added to clause 3.7, subject to any relevant laws and regulations. Clause 3.15 does not prohibit councillors from discussing the matter before a council or committee meeting prior to considering the matter in question at the council or committee meeting, or from voluntarily sharing a shared view with other councillors on the merits of the matter.
Just to be clear, the only amendment that was made was the starting bit, subject to any relevant laws and regulations. So the intention there with the minister's new rules around the code of meeting practice is that that's going to cover any changes to the code of meeting or other regulations that are brought in by the minister.
So basically, we're just waiting to see what happens there with his recommendations coming clear. Yeah. So I endorsed this code of conduct and wait for further changes to
Code of meeting.
code of meeting. Yeah. Okay, all clear with that? Okay, all right, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, 11.6 is model of code of meeting, practice meeting. The recommendation states the council note the ERC code of meeting practice is currently under review, and 2, resolve to defer adopting an updated ERC code of meeting practice to a later meeting. Someone move that. Councillor Ford, seconder. Councillor Sampson, any discussion on that? Councillor Newland.
I would just like to ask whether we can make sure that we have the ability to see the webinars on the introduction of this policy. I indicated quite clearly there's a couple of issues there that I don't necessarily agree with. One of them in particular is the need to stand every time someone speaks in council. I believe and I hope we're mature enough to listen when someone talks. Plus I also believe that it's a deterrent for future people thinking about going into council. The other one I'm very concerned about is how we ask questions prior to meetings and how that's actually going to be communicated to the public, because I tend to ask a few questions and I still appreciate the answers before the meeting so that I can make an informed decision. A lot of questions if I have to wait to the meeting to make a decision, I think that makes it very difficult. So I'm interested to see how that working example gets done and how they anticipate to implement that rule. But anyway, that's just my thoughts and why I'd like to know when those webinars are, because I've had, there's a lot of discussion amongst other councils and the wording of must and should and what that means. So I'm just curious as to what the consensus is going forward.
Yeah, no, I think until the minister actually comes out and actually puts the final touches on it, we'll probably have to wait and see around that. My intention is that we will probably just leave things at status quo until we get that direction, but I think we'll take advice in terms of any webinars and future kind of references from the Minister's office on what this looks like, and then we as a council can make a determination on our code of meeting practice. You're happy with that to proceed? Any further debate? No? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, 11.7 is the draft policy, reiterate draft policy of our temporary trade of water. Now there are, just noting that there are some disclosure of interest there, so just for the public that there was three, Councillor Crossley, Councillor Fawns and Councillor Mill declared an interest and they noted that they would stay in the room for the debate. The recommendation states that Council 1 endorses the draft temporary trade of water policy included in attachment 1 to this report. 2, place the endorsed draft temporary trade water policy on public exhibition for a period of no less than 28 days and invite comments from the public regarding the draft policy. And 3, if no comments are received, adopt the draft temporary water trade policy. A mover and a second for that, thank you. Move Councillor Drill, second Councillor Mill. Debate on this item. As the mover.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hall. This is a tricky one. I think we've got to be very careful and have, which we already have, or my understanding is to have exhaustive discussions with State Water to make sure that we adhere to the rules. We certainly don't want to put our access to this water at risk, knowing that if State Water wants to talk to us or thinks that we're selling water and we've got too much water, they can take some of the water off us. So there's a if I put that in the right context, I think it's just a gently thing to make sure that we do adhere to the rules. We're not here I think with good governance, we need to be very careful when we're marketing this water, high security water that we're in the market. I know, we do understand we've got something like 5,500 megs of water and we're using about 3,200 at this point. And obviously, in the notes, we've got margins that we need to uphold. I mean, the State Water have given us those margins to make sure that we do not run out of water in the town. At the same time, I think this opportunity, I'm all for, if there's an opportunity there to gain some sort of income for the council, knowing that we have a restricted or a limited way of income other than our rates and our charges that we put on people. So I'd be keen, and as long as and I've been gently wanting to know what the public think about this. I think that's important to put it out. We're going to do that, and that's if we go forward with this motion, then 28 days consultation is a good thing. So
Sounds good.
that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Ford.
Oh, thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Just with the recommendation, I'm struggling with I understand it going out to public for public feedback, but I'm struggling with point 3 of if no comments received, adopt the draft temporary trade water policy. I actually think that this policy needs to come back around the table for the councillors to actually work on with the staff and to discuss further, and I'm not comfortable with an automatic, if no public comments, that this would automatically be adopted. So that's not flagging an amendment or a different.
Possibly if item 3 was seek further advice from industry, potentially to facilitate council's knowledge on this, the water sector. Not so much as the legislative side of things from state government have been explained, but in terms of the process of selling water and so on, I think that's important for council. The mechanisms are needed to name that. So I think with the public feedback, I think we'll probably get some of that back anyway, but I think it's worthwhile giving some further expertise advice, and we might be able to, that is an amendment in part 3 instead of if no comments were received, basically seek industry expertise for further consultation and
Yeah, there's an amendment up on the screen now.
To assist council in further development of this policy, or I don't know the wording, I'm not looking for
assist council in determining a
final policy.
It can just finish at council.
Yeah,
Seek further
assist
advice.
council.
And as I wasn't moved or seconded,
To assist council's policy,
final determination.
final policy.
In finalising the policy.
As a mover of that, Councillor Jordan, you comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that.
Second was Councillor Newman, comfortable with that? Further debate, Councillor Sampson?
Through you, Mr Mayor, probably just a question, just to make sure that it's being thought about, is if we do this, we just want to make sure that we're not at risk of somebody down the line deciding that, oh, you guys have sold water 5 years in a row or whatever it happens to be. You obviously don't need your full allocation. Let's knock 1,000 meg off the top of what you're entitled to, and therefore, with the growth strategy that we're looking at, we're not at any risk of losing that water down the track permanently.
Yeah, it's a fair justified question. Some gentlemen want to comment on that?
Oh, look, that's always been my concern about this, making it too public. I know that a few other councils do it within our region already. We do not have to buy the water back as well. So under the rules, the minister must buy local water utility for populations.
The only thing I would say to defend our decision that's looking at this is that the state government have put an enormous amount of cost shifting on local government now, and I think there's plenty of reports there saying that, and they're screaming, basically saying be more efficient in terms of your operations. We have to look at all mechanisms to achieve financial security. I think this is a better option than going back to the ratepayer and asking for rate variations and those type of things. That we've got a mechanism there that probably over the years we've it just goes around into the pool of the water cycle. It just goes around and around and around without ever being used. But we have got a reasonable buffer in terms of our security, and I think with the conditions that the state government put on us, I think it's only fair that we can utilise that in a certain way. Councillor Fawns and Councillor
Sorry,
Crossley,
I've
Councillor
already
Birch.
spoken to it, so I just want to ask a clarifying question. My right in understanding though is if we do temporary trade water, that income from that, the revenue from that will actually go to the water account and will not assist in any way in the general fund, which is where we've got hurt.
Absolutely, I think we need to get more advice on this one, because we do know that other councils in our region are putting it back into the general fund.
We could
We'll
set
seek
that up.
clarification. Councillor Crossley and Councillor Birch.
I agree in your sentiment, Mayor Hall and therefore Councillor Thorns. I guess some of the information I'd like to seek is I need to understand how the trade from high security can occur and does it get translated across to general? Is there an ability for it to get translated across to general? And is there any mechanism to retain this water for productive use and or in Edward River Council or the very least Murray Irrigation area?
Yeah.
I know that other entities like Murray Irrigation, when they trade their own water, they've had that set up where it is maintained or retained in that area. I think it is. I agree. We need to find smart ways to generate revenue, and when we don't, we have a substantial amount of water that we're not using to be able to convert that to some income through temporary trade and push that into the pool for irrigators to use. At the moment, water's trading at something like $230. There was a $20 at least variation yesterday. It's a good way for us to make some income, but at the same time, push some water back into the pool for irrigators to use on grow their crops at the moment. So some of that detail in terms of seeking further information, I'd like that noted, please.
Great. Councillor Birch.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Just for clarification, if we do sell or trade the water, the high security, and I think we're getting a little bit paranoid about what state waters, what they're allowed to do or what they're not, and they cannot take any water away from us for maybe if we were pumping night and day and growing a marijuana crop or something. But I think you'll find whoever the delegate is that talks to state water from council, clarify that for people, because I think it sparks fear into the community that, oh, we could lose the water. That would not, to the best of my knowledge, and I've done a bit of research on this, that cannot happen. So if we're just solely trading.
They're setting the guidelines in terms of the three-stage policy that they put forward in terms of the mechanism, how we get to the number. So that's the basically the protection for the community, that we can't just go out and use and put at risk our water if there is a shortage, if we go into some type of a drought, that there are mechanisms in there to say in those years that we can't sell water. So there are protections around that. So I don't know if you want to comment around that further.
Well, and I think during drought periods where we would put water restrictions in place too, so the usage should be dropping off too.
Yeah. Okay. Any further debate on that item? I think we'll all be looking forward to some further information with it, but at least it will go out to the public for 28 days, get that public consultation, get some industry advice, then bring it back and make a final determination that we're all a bit more informed. Okay. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? You against?
No, it was 4.
Sorry.
You're just too quick.
You're too slow. Okay, it's carried, thank you. Okay, 11.8 is the Everett River 2050 Fast Track of Growth. Recommendation states the council endorse the Everett River 2050 Fast Track for Growth strategy as the guiding framework for the long-term growth and development of the Everett River region. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor Sampson, second to Councillor Drawes. Been a long time coming, but we're finally getting there. So discussion and debate on this at all?
I'll just raise one observation there on page 33. In the draft that we looked at, we talked about how many people have no intentions of leaving town, and that was a positive number, and that was sort of the message. But when this version has gone back to the 18.2 leaving the town, and I just feel that that's a bit of a negative type of thing to put in the document. So I was just wondering whether we have the opportunity to switch that.
CEO, you want to?
Yeah, if you could please.
Yeah, sure. Through you, Mayor Hall, and thank you, Councillor Millen, for the question or the comment. Absolutely, that piece of data, and thank you for picking that up, has been changed since the previous draft. I do agree with you that I think we should focus on that 50% of people who wouldn't leave the town as opposed to the 18.2% that would. So I'll leave it to Council if you'd like to make a recommendation to change that piece of data.
Well, I will make an amendment to include or to change the data that's actually presented on page 33 of the document. I'm not sure if it's actually 33. I think it might be actually.
Yes, 33.
I'm happy with that.
Councillor Miller, you're happy with that? Seconder, happy with that? Councillor
It
George?
was discussed early on about keeping the tone of the whole thing in a positive manner. I can't remember the initial one, Julia, that was discussed, but it was just shaping the language used to be more of a much more positive framing of all the figures and data rather than that sort of slightly negative spin. So yeah, I agree.
Okay. Councillor Forbes?
Can I just ask, and I guess it's a little through you, Mayor Hall, a more of a clarifying question around the wording in the recommendation, and where I believe these strategies and that should be actually living documents. So the recommendation is council endorse the Edward River 2050 fast track as the guiding framework for long-term growth and development. So just clarifying that, is this a document that can move with us and change with us, like a living business plan / strategy document? If with this being that we're endorsing, we're not actually adopting it, we're endorsing the strategy. So is that,
I think
My
any
understanding
any
and
strategy
vision for
document
that?
has got to be a movable document and a fluid document. That we don't know what our economic kind of situation comes from. We could go into drought and these type of things. So we've got to have some mechanisms to look at that and pull the levers where we have to.
Yeah.
I think, would you support that?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Hall, and yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Fawns. That is the intention. So the action plan will be reviewed year on year for council to make budget decisions on what they'd like to allocate towards delivering that action plan. And the intention is that the strategy then will be reviewed with every council term.
there's little things like this we can pick up on as we're going through.
Councillor Schofield?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment that I don't really see the need to remove the fact that 18.2% consider leaving. I think, this is a growth strategy to grow. We need to address why those 18.2 do want to leave. It's great 50% don't, but I don't think there's any reason that we can't have both in there. I think we've got to be factual about this. We can't remove something from it if we don't like it, if we don't like the reality of our community that 18.2% don't want to be here. We've still got to accept that they don't, or that they're open to leaving our community.
Can I comment? In the document, it does state the two numbers, the 18.2 and the 50, but the 50 is written in the small print, and the 18.2 is the big number. I'm just suggesting we reverse it. 50 is the big number, and then 18.2 is written there in the small print.
We could probably just have them both.
Well, you'd have to look at page 33 and how it.
It's still referenced in there. It's not taken out totally.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's
Correct.
I guess my comment with having 18.2 there, obviously there's both stats, is it might be in 5 years' time we decide to benchmark it and that number's dropped. So I see value in that 18.2% there. We're not talking about removing it. I don't mind either way, both stats are there, I think it's probably semantics, but I do see value in having that stat there, sort of carrying on from what Councillor Schofield has said, in that it's a benchmark. I'd like to see hopefully it
Yeah.
drops in another 5 years because of all the great work that's been done. And just while I'm talking, so I have to talk again, just a massive credit to the whole team, previous council, previous subcommittee group, I think Councillor Sampson was on it, and apologies if either, look, massive document, it's an exciting document. I know that already industry and government is looking at the draft document, so I firmly believe good things will come when we endorse this today, so huge credit to the team.
Councillor Sanders.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll just second exactly what Kelly has just said, and long time coming. It's been a huge body of work, and congratulations to all involved. Previous council, this council, and it's good to finally get squared away.
Thanks, councillors. I think it's timely. We're coming into a time frame where there's some exciting things happening. I believe that we've probably got the most stable and council that we've had for a long period of time, and staff that are fully on board and committed to seeing this council grow and prosper. There's some hard decisions to come, but I think there's some exciting times, particularly like the renewables is a whole new field for us to get involved in, and potentially some long-term strategy income there that could even feed into this kind of growth strategy and really propel us into a great 2050. So I think it's exciting. So without further ado, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Unanimously. Okay, last one on reports to council is Southern Riverina Drought Resilience Plan update. The recommendation states that the council received a note the September update on the Southern Riverina Drought Resilience Plan project, Control Group Project Plan. I'll seek a mover in a second for that. Councillor Fawn's moved.
With a slight addition to that we seek a budget spend where we're at currently and what's left in the bucket
For the program.
for the program.
Yeah, seek the budget spend and review of final budget, completed program, or completion of the program. Okay.
Yeah, I guess what I'm looking for is that where we are with that budget spend and what we've got left, and as I said, the completion of the program needs to happen really quickly, but where it's actually been spent.
So that's the detail around expenditure. As a mover of that, is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Newland, are you comfortable with that? Okay. Councillors comfortable with that amendment? Any further discussion on that? Some debate? No? Comfortable? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Reports for noting. I intend to move these in one block, which is 12.1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So I'll seek a motion to move those in a block. Councillor Schofield, Councillor Fawns, a seconder. Discussion on any of those? Councillor Newland? Just have to make reference to the report, that's all.
So on for major projects, I just want to.
Is that 12.1?
12.5?
12.5.
Just want clarification as to whether it's noted in the document that a DA is currently being put together for Pepin Heritage. I just want clarification as to whether that process requires it to come back to council, because I'm just concerned that will slow the process up.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Mulan. By our business practices and delegations, any development applications involving council, whether as the land owner, asset owner, or as the applicant, would come back to council. The information being provided by the project team is that it's on track to be completed, but I'll follow up that timing does allow for the development approval works as noted.
That means it will come back to next council meeting.
Yeah, my understanding.
Any further discussion? Councillor Schofield?
Yeah, I just have a question through you, Mr Mayor. In 12.3, I just note we still have a lot of cats being euthanised. I'm assuming this is from the youth centre that was demolished. I'm just wondering what we're doing about the cat problem that is there since that building has been removed. There are a lot of cats, and as we know, there's 2 restaurants next to there, and there are quite a few cat issues.
Oh.
So, feral cats.
I feel we might take that one on notice.
Councillor Mullins?
So just with regards to 12.2, carryover projects, I'm just surprised by the size of dollars that the carryover projects have, and it's just hard to keep ideas on how you're going in your financials when you have a number of items being carried over each year. And I'm just wondering if is it just the nature and this is what we should be expecting all the time, or are we just too ambitious when we put our budgets together that we take on projects that we know we can't complete?
Pretty open-ended question, and I think I'm not sure how to exactly answer it. There's nothing to really take on notice there, but no, dead right. Looking at what it is, the projects that are underway, we do want to finish, but looking at the capital expenditure of years to come or planning.
Yeah, through Ms Mayor, and thanks Councillor Millen. Yeah, just adding to what sort of the CEO has said there, we have had over the previous years with high levels of grant funding, which has historically sat on top of our normal program. So for the 25-26 year, noting that there's been a few years of these amounts coming through, so the question is this normal? Unfortunately for previous years it has been. Really focusing in 25-26 to leverage that grant funding and try and reduce the overall. So there's definitely a drive and objective by the organisation to reduce that, complete the works that we have, because essentially the carryovers are that work that's not completed but has been committed to by council, is to complete that work so that moving forward it's a bit clearer and there's not so much carried forward coming through. So a mixture of some grant funding, and I'd agree with some ambitious programs. We want to get on top of both those issues.
Okay, any further discussion on any of those items? Okay, I'll put the recommendations for we've all moved in one note. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 13 is notices of motion. There's one here, notice of motion of Councillor Frank Schofield. The recommendation states conversion of taxi ranks to rideshare bays. The council, 1, remove existing taxi ranks within Deniliquin. 2, designate these spaces as rideshare bays to allow rideshare and courtesy services to utilise these spaces and install appropriate signage. And 3, write to Transport New South Wales advising to the change and seeking any required approvals. Councillor Chuck, I'm sure you want to move that. Okay. Second of that, Councillor Forbes. Discussion? Councillor Neal.
Well, discussion, or perhaps it might be an amendment, that based on the information that's in there, I feel that we actually have to well, the staff are telling us it has to go to the local traffic forum, so I'm just wondering whether that needs to be in the recommendation.
Is that not covered under seeking any required approvals?
Well, that's right to Transport New
Yeah.
South Wales. This is actually saying, well, the documentation saes it has to go to the local forum. So I'm just wondering whether.
Seeking relevant departments.
Well, no, this is the internal local,
Yeah.
the local traffic forum, that's what the description says.
No, we will, sorry, yeah. I don't think we need the amendment because I see that as right, Transport for New South Wales will, the requirement will be that we need Transport Forum.
Councillor Ford?
Just an ask clarifying question in the council information around the implementation of the notice of motion where you're referring to hire car and ride share vehicles. Why would we have hire car? Is there a reason we have to have
Through
hire car?
you, Mr Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Forbes. The wording around the hire car is lining up with the actual legislation, the legislation that allows the ride share companies and act to act in this space is the hire car and ride share that really defined them together. So that's why we have we've used that wording within terms of the report, very much noting that forward in liquidities around the ride share. So, but if there was a hire car the company organisation, they would have the same rights as the ride share because they have the same rights under the legislation.
Councillor Sampson.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just another clarifying question. If there was a taxi company come back to town, these changes wouldn't prevent them from utilising those spaces again, they just fall under the ride share / wording framework still?
Through Mr Mayor, and thanks Councillor Sampson. Yeah, the legislation defines with the taxi ranks, it's in that sort of public passenger service. So with the change in signs, if a taxi service did start up again, they wouldn't have just straight up the same rights that they have now with taxi signs, but they would have the ability to use that space. Just widens the use.
Councillor Milne.
This is just for seeking clarification. So at the moment, any ride share, are they allowed to use the space?
No, it's against the road rules for them to use
That's
it.
why. So I think the intention is to take the signs down and replace. Okay, any further discussion, debate on that item? You're comfortable, Councillor Schofield?
Very comfortable.
Very comfortable. Okay, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 14, questions with notice. Councillor Mule has a question, and the recommendation states the question is, on the 29th of March, Council closed Naked Street to do some investigation works on the footpath cracking. During this investigation, lots of markings were put on footpaths. Can the community be informed on the outcomes of this investigation work and whether any issues or concerns were identified? I'll hand that over to the Director for clarification. Comfortable with that?
Yes, for the report.
Yeah, no. Thank you, Mr Mayor. So yeah, in response to the question, noting that it is a very visible, prominent part of the CBD, and Council has gone and put a lot of marks on them. So the initial investigation that was done at that time did highlight some anomalies within that may impact on the footpath with the sinking and cracking that has been we've seen happen. Since that time, Council staff have undertaken sort of site inspections and survey to see if those are moving anymore. Over the time, they haven't seen the sort of significant or material movement of it, so we feel that it has settled down. Noting that it is still sort of issues with cracking in the area. So at this point in time, council staff are looking at including footpath renewal in that area as part of the 26-27 footpath renewal program. We don't feel it's a requirement for emergency works, so we need to go and do that. We really feel that whilst we can do further non-destructive ground penetrating radar type investigation, there is damage that footpath does need renewal, and it'd be best to then undertake that investigation when we do that renewal work to make sure that the works to the subgrade are done to further support the footpath.
Councillor Milne, supplementary question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. How old is that footpath area? Like that was part of the new.
It was part of the new work, so it's not very old.
So a year.
I know it'd be 5 years. Yeah.
You comfortable with your question?
Oh, I've got the answer. Yeah.
Yep.
It will be interesting when it comes up to budget, and replacing a footpath after 5 years is probably a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, no, and from a operational point of viewpoint, it is as well. Footpaths have fairly long asset lives, useful lives, and we do want to get to that. Some go short, some go longer than that, but generally it works around that useful life. So it's definitely an asset that is much shorter.
It's normally 25.
Than
That's
that.
right.
Yeah, especially being asphalt. So the council of the day made the decision to go asphalt rather than concrete. Asphalt, you'd be, especially with the type of construction, you'd be around that 25 to 30. You would have been after, which indicates there are subgrade conditions, and I noted with the GPR survey that's been done to date that there may be impacting it. And I remember at the time when council was doing the work, discussions about cellars and corridors and stuff like that. So part of that renewal work will be also, as I said, that strengthening of the subgrade. There are construction techniques we can do some pothole testing just to the best way to find out what that impact is, and then do construction techniques to support the footpath more. And hopefully then with the renewal section, getting that life we want out of it for the section that's been renewed.
Is there an opportunity for what you'd see and just see if there is any further kind of movement, and it maybe have some, well, not a full reconstruction, but some patching in terms of the asphalt areas, or not?
At the moment, we're proposing just to replace the areas that are most affected. So we're not going to do the whole lot. Notice and the public would notice when we do have to do work down there, just a small patch within a panel, I don't think gives an outcome.
Yeah.
That is great. Just different construction techniques, you never get that smooth surface. So that's sort of where we'll keep looking at it leading up to budget time. But in terms of what that future project is going to look like, actually taking out sort of full bays so that we can come in and get the right, the correct sort of hot mix asphalt and the correct machinery to get a nice smooth thing in there. So it's not looking at the whole bit, but we will be looking at bays very much centred around that little laneway next to the retro shop, and then also down at the Crescent Street intersection.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on that? I'll put the recommendation that the question's been answered. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. There's no confidential items, and we come to close of the meeting. Okay.
11:14.
11:14. I'll declare the meeting closed, and thanks for your attendance. Thank you.
Record.